Thank you for waiting. Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were already here. Uh, Thank you again for coming. I just wanted to dive into a topic that I think is really important. That's why I called you and thought you could come over tonight. We could get this recorded just as fast as we can because I've been receiving quite a few little notes, tweets, uh, email, tweets about the uh, I want to talk tonight about something that I believe is very, very important for young men to understand. And I'm talking now about the discomfort that young men have when they find themselves in a conversation with someone who's extremely intelligent. Now, uh, I've been getting quite a few tweets, emails, tweets about what are the tools that a young man can use to really create an environment where the young man's last thought is to run away and escape. We don't want to have young men running away from difficult conversations and hiding themselves from people who are extremely intelligent. And there are some people, from time to time, you do meet somebody who's really smart, and they can be domineering and arrogant, but we don't want that to stop the young men from having a relationship with these people and also basically overwhelming them with their own knowledge. Now, life is not rocket science. Most of the time, a young man can go through life with uh, just minimal interaction with the people who are really intelligent. Most of the time, it's just like, "Hi, how are you? It sure is warm today. Did you see that dead dog over there by the door? Uh, that's a pretty blouse. Did you buy that at Target? Have you eaten the spare ribs with barbecue sauce at Burger King yet?" These types of things, just really mundane, inane things. Young men don't have to talk about rocket science, but every once in a while you do find someone who's actually a rocket scientist. And they're the ones we got to be careful. We got to watch out for those. And so these young men are saying, "Earl, what can we do to protect ourselves from being shamed when we talk to these really intelligent people?" So I have 5 tools that I believe young men can use to help them feel safe and assured in a conversation with a really intelligent person. And I'm going to call this program Masking Ignorance. That's right. We're not saying these young men are ignorant or stupid, but we are saying that they probably don't know a lot about rocket science, okay? So we're masking the fact that they are not aware of what the other person's talking about. And that's why these 5 tools are so important. First of all, tool number 1, deflect. Deflect. And that simply means in the conversation when if they ask you a really tough question, you ask for something they don't have. If you get from them something you know they don't have, and to answer their question, they're never going to get you to answer anything, are they? Because they don't have what you need. What is an example of something they don't? I always ask, when I'm presented with a really tough question, I always ask them, "By the way, do you have a slide rule?" I could answer that question if I had a slide rule, but you see, no one in the world has slide rules anymore. That nobody carries them. Not even rocket scientists. So you can just ask for something they don't have. I always say slide rule. Uh, you could just think of anything you want to, like a rabbit's foot. Who walks around with a rabbit's foot? Not very many people. But you see, the point is that if you get from them something they don't have, which is impossible, you're not going to be able to answer their question because they can't give you what you need to answer the question. And you might think, now, Earl, what if the question doesn't deal with math? and thereby you don't need a slide rule. Well, that is making a difference. I can make the slide rule an integral part of any topic that anybody would bring to me. That any question that's too hard for me to answer, I can make the slide rule the critical component that I need to answer the question. Number 2, distract. This means in the conversation, when you don't know what they're talking about, you disclose an emotionally intense experience that you know they haven't had. It's one-upmanship, of course, but what do? I always talk about an out-of-body experience, maybe a near-death experience. And that can be very emotional. That can be almost mind-altering as you describe how your spirit left your body and you're floating over the city and you saw colors, psychedelic things, and make sure they understand you're not on an opioid, okay? You're not high on a drug. It's a real out-of-body experience, and you want to make sure that they haven't had that. If they have had an out-of-body experience, you need to go a little step further and say, well, you actually died and went to heaven and met relatives, God, and saw animals and things, and don't disclose too much, but to make it very, very intensely emotional. But make sure they haven't had that experience, because now this way, you see, it just gets huge distraction, way off into the corner. In the unlikely event that they've had both an out-of-body experience and a near-death experience, or a death experience, I talk about, well, I was a member of the mafia. Almost nobody in the world is a member of the mafia anymore. That's why I find it to be very helpful to throw that in, if they've already done those other things. The point is, you just want to make sure that they haven't experienced something that you've experienced to be a huge distraction from what you're talking about. Number 3, deflate. By that I mean, you're going to raise the bar to something that's far more complicated. Yeah, okay, so they can ask you a question that's just really, really deep and profound and very, very complicated. Deflating means you're going to go up higher. You're going to raise the bar, and you're going to come back with something that is even more complicated. And what do I do there? I like to talk about stereochemical Fisher projections. Now you might, Earle, what in the world is that? I'm not sure what that is, but I know it has something to do with organic chemistry. Stereochemical Fisher projections, just throw that out there. And not very many people know about that, but you say, okay, your point is very interesting, but I wonder if you've ever considered the stereochemical Fisher projection in this regard. See, they'll be wide-eyed, like, what in the world he's talking about? And I also like to talk about Wagoner-Nagel clitics. That's a linguistic term. Very, very, people don't know about that. But you can put those two together. You can say, by the way, I think the answer to your question is a stereochemical Fisher projection that relies on the Wagoner-Nagel clitic. They will not have any, they'll be so confused, and they'll just stop talking to you, which is what you want them to do. So deflate. Number 4, disarm. By this way, I mean that you introduce a metaphor that is completely beyond human understanding. And what do I do here? Here's my example. I use this to disarm the other side. I say this: I'm guessing there's meat behind those potatoes, but I doubt you know if there's gravy. I'll say that again. I'm guessing there's meat behind those potatoes, but I doubt you know if there's gravy. Now, what does that mean? You're not going to stop to explain it. It's a metaphor. You're going to use this metaphor and as a way to disarm their argument or disarm what they're talking about, because now all of their concentration is going to be on what in the world does that metaphor mean. And you're going to say it in such a way as to, well, golly, everybody knows what this means, and I'm surprised you don't know what this means. And maybe they'll be thinking, I don't know what that metaphor means, and so maybe I'm not as smart as that young man is, which is where you want to have them right there in the palm of your hand. You want them to be thinking, okay, I better stop talking to this young man because apparently he is even more intelligent than I thought he was, more intelligent than I am. And finally, the 5th tool that I think is really helpful here is to disorient. And by that I mean you turn the conversation around with an extremely personal question. For men, I like to say, what's the name of that cologne you're wearing? Whew. Men are so uncomfortable around other men that talk about their cologne. It's a very, very, very personal thing, intimate. And men don't like that. It's like, because it's like if you answer that question, what is the cologne you're wearing? It's like the man wants to even come a little closer and smell the cologne even more with this very, very close personal intimate contact. And so when you turn it around with a very personal question, you're disorienting the other person. They're disorienting the whole conversation. And you're going to say, the cologne, and they're going to be very uncomfortable if they're a man. Now, if you're talking with a woman who's super intelligent, then I like to say to that woman, I say, have you ever considered becoming a lingerie model? This is like, whoa. So it's so unsettling because likely they've never considered being a lingerie model. But you say that because it's so personal. And the woman's probably thinking, well, why? What is he thinking about right now in his mind? What is he imagining? Is he imagining me standing right here wearing lingerie? Or maybe she's thinking, you know what? I didn't realize I was that good looking. Maybe I should uh, become a lingerie model. And then she's going to be asking you for more input. Like, well, what did you mean by that? Do you think I could be successful? Do you have any contacts? What modeling agency would you recommend? Do you have any particular preferences with respect to the lingerie and the colors and so forth? And so you get the whole conversation now just turns onto the woman becoming a lingerie model. And then maybe you could even go to Victoria's Secret with her and start picking out lingerie that you think she'd look good in. So you could just, the sky's the limit with this one. Like for the man, you could actually go to a store and maybe smell a bunch of colognes, try them on, spray each other, becoming like that, more intimate. And by that time, you've completely forgotten what the conversation was all about, and you're completely forgotten that the other person you're talking to is super intelligent. So these 5 things, these 5 tools are designed to mask your ignorance in conversations with really intelligent people. I find these to be so helpful. No one can know everything about everything, but everybody can know a little bit about something. And that's what I'm telling these young men. Just know a little bit about something, but then again, maybe you don't know anything about something. And so that's where these tools come in handy, because when you know nothing, it looks as though you might know quite a bit. And that's what we want. We want young men to be confident and assured of themselves when they're talking to people who are super intelligent, because we need to invest in our young men in America so that they can be successful. And these 5 tools will help them navigate these really, really academic, scholarly, kind of snobbish conversations that they're bound to have with rocket scientists and other people like that in their day-to-day life. So this is so important. I'm so glad we could get this out as soon as possible, because it's so critical that these young men understand this. And so thank you for coming over tonight for the moment, short notice. I appreciate it. And thank you again for watching.
Look at what's happened to me. I can't believe it myself. Suddenly I'm up on top of the world. It should have been somebody else. Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. I never thought I could feel so free. Hide away, away at a prayer. Who could it be? Believe it or not, it's just me. Just like the light of a new day, it hit me from out of the blue.